Hello, my friends. Let's begin with the situation at the border, specifically in the Kursk region. Unfortunately, the Ukrainian counteroffensive here has come to a complete halt with no further advances in the Hlushkivsky district. However, the Russian counteroffensive has also stalled. Despite this, they continue to shell border settlements in the Sumy region, and reports indicate that Russian aviation is launching glide bombs towards Sumy. Sadly, the presence of F-16s is not yet enabling us to shoot down these aircraft, which still manage to approach the border and launch their bombs. Although the F-16s can detect Russian planes much earlier, giving us the opportunity to take them down, it seems that this isn't happening. On the positive side, Russians are complaining that Ukrainian forces are actively destroying their positions with FPV drones, and the Russians appear to be struggling with this despite their earlier claims of industrial scale FPV drone production. However, we shouldn't underestimate Russia. They have plenty of manpower. It's reported that they are planning to further increase their military budget. For 2025, Russia has allocated $142 billion for war. This is more than 6% of their GDP and almost 40% of their projected budget. Judging by this, Russia isn't preparing for any peace talks. Putin will continue the war for as long as he has the resources, and if the West continues to buy his raw materials and withhold weapons from us, his war potential is practically limitless. The situation with shelling in the Kharkiv region remains dire. Strikes on Kharkiv continue, though yesterday saw shelling in Belgorod, where air defense systems were active over the city. Along the front lines, fighting continues. Today, the Russians are attempting to advance toward the village of Lipty, but the Ukrainian forces are holding the defense and the front line remains unchanged. Fighting also persists near Vovchansk, where Ukrainian forces are making progress. It has been confirmed that the Ukrainian military has pushed the Russians back from the factory. Currently, the Russians are holding only on the outermost streets of the city. Reports from the ground indicate that beyond liberating the factory, the Ukrainian forces have achieved additional successes. Meanwhile, the Russians are trying to break through near the village of Tikhe and reclaim previously lost positions. However, the Ukrainian forces are maintaining their defense here as well, with no changes to the front line. On the Kupiansk front, the Russians continue pushing toward the village of Golubivka, which is troubling news. If they manage to secure this position, some sources even confirm that they're making progress. It poses a significant threat to Kupiansk itself, the primary objective of the Russians in this direction. To the south, heavy fighting continues near Hlushkivka and Kolesnikivka, though the front line remains stable there. In the Svatove direction, battles are ongoing around Stelmachivka, though without any significant changes. Further south, Russian forces are making aggressive attempts to advance towards Chernyshina, Druzhelyubivka, and are storming the village of Makiyivka. Activity is intense here, with up to 10 assaults per day as they aim to capture these settlements. The reason for their focus is clear. Beyond Chernyshina, there are open operational spaces. As I mentioned in my previous video, if the Russians succeed here, the front line could collapse again. Today, Ukrainian forces are doing everything possible to stop their advance and prevent them from gaining access to the open spaces. In the Kreminna direction, battles for Nevsky are still ongoing. This is now the third day in a row that the Russians claim to have captured the village, while the Ukrainian side reports that fighting is still underway. We'll need to wait and see how the situation develops. Further south, fighting continues near Torsk and in the Serebryanka forest, but the Russians haven't made any progress there. In the Siversk direction, the Russians are attempting to break through to Fedorivka. Previously, they tried to capture Pereizny, and now they are pushing across the water barrier to advance towards Fedorivka. However, they have had no success so far, as Ukrainian forces continue to repel all attacks. In the Chasiv Yar direction, first battles are ongoing near Kalinivka, with Russian forces pushing towards Pretechene and assaulting also Bila Hora and Klashivka. A month ago, this front was relatively quiet, but today the Russians are throwing everything they have into these attacks, advancing in small groups and trying to break through anywhere they can. However, Ukrainian forces have managed to hold the line, and there have been no changes in the front line over the past day. In the Toretsk direction, the Russians have captured Nelepivka and are advancing toward the center of Toretsk, while also assaulting the Dachny area. The situation here is critical. Although the Russian advance is gradual, they are steadily gaining ground and closing in to the main town in this sector, all while using cap bombs to devastate the area. In the Pokrovsk direction, Russian forces continue attempting to break through closer to the highway with a high level of activity, though they have made no significant gains. Near Krasny Yar, Ukrainian forces report that the Russians are trying to advance toward Mykolaiivka, aiming to move toward the outskirts of Mirnograd. The situation is extremely difficult, but for now the Ukrainian forces is managing to hold the line. Near Novogrodivka, Ukrainian forces have successfully pushed back the Russians, slightly improving the situation, though the fighting hasn't ceased. The Russians are attempting to break through toward Lysivka, aiming to get closer to Pokrovsk. Further south, in the area around Kupiansk, Ukrainian forces have similarly pushed back the Russians, but attempts to break through to Tsukurene continue and the shelling of Hirnik persists. It seems clear that Russian forces are preparing for a major assault. Moreover, the Russians have reportedly made progress near Zhelanne Druga, with some sources claiming that the village is now under Russian control, although official confirmation is still awaited. In the Kurakhova direction, Russian forces are slowly advancing from two sides in an effort to encircle Maximilianivka, significantly worsening the situation. To the south, attempts to break through the fields towards Katerinivka continue, but Ukrainian forces have managed to repel the attack so far. In the Vuhledar direction, Russian forces have reached the outskirts of the city, making significant advances from several sides, and the situation has become catastrophic. Vuhledar is under heavy shelling as the Russians prepare for another round of assaults. It appears that once the front line is stabilized, their next target will likely be Bogoyavlenka. In the Zaporizhia direction, fighting continues near Novoandriivka with ongoing shelling, but there have been no significant changes along the front line. In the Kherson direction, Russian forces continue attempts to advance on the islands and bombard the right bank of the Dnipro River, though they have made no significant progress and the front line remains unchanged. However, with the Russians encircling Vuhledar and advancing near Pokrovsk in an effort to push towards Dnipropetrovsk region, it's clear that they have ambitious plans. The more success they achieve, the greater their Kremlin's appetite for further advances grows. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.